Economics. The first lesson that we're going to look at today is kind of a broad overview of how money flows through the economy. And so this is called the circular flow of income. All right. Some people call it the circular flow of money. We'll call it the circular flow of income. Now, what this does is just kind of gives us a graphic representation of how money flows throughout the economy. Of how money. Whew, okay, my handwriting's bad, but that was even too bad for me. How money flows through the economy. Okay, and so with this, we can kind of get a measure of how much money is flowing through the economy. All right, and so it gives us a good way to measure overall economic activity because it's going to allow us to look at three different things. One is how much income is flowing through the economy. And we're going to call income as Y. We're going to be able to see how much is being spent in the economy. All right, expenditure, and that's going to be denoted as E. Then we're going to be able to look at how much output is in the economy. All right, and that'll be the O. Now, what's going to happen is, if you think about it, these are all going to be the same thing, all right, for the most part. So when we talk about expenditure, we're saying how much do people, either consumers, businesses, government, how much do we all collectively spend on goods and services? Now, output is the goods and services that we buy, and so the value of the output should equal generally the value of the expenditure. And where do we get all that money? It's the income, all right. And so what the circular flow is going to allow us to do is to kind of track that money as it flows through the economy. All right. Now, there are a couple of different models that we're going to look at. The first one is pretty simple. It's a two-sector model. All right. These go all the way up to five-sector models, and that gets a little bit more involved, but it's still pretty straightforward. And we're going to end up here. We're going to start here, and we're going to end up here. So let's get a new slide here. So circular flow of income. All right, so we're going to take two different sectors. All right, one of the sectors, those are the different actors, the different participants. All right, it's going to be the households. That's you and I. All right, that's what we spend our money on. The other sector that we're going to look at is the firms. All right, so these are the people that make the products, and so this is why this is our two-sector model. All right, this is why we say it's two sectors: firms and households. Now we have two different markets that we're going to deal with. All right, one of them is goods and services. It's the goods and services market, and the other is called the factor market. This can also be called the resource market. Okay, so and the price of things are determined by supply and demand in this market. We could put a little Q and P there and supply and demand. And then the prices for the factors are also supply and demand. So I'm going to erase that. This is going to get messy, and we don't need more stuff in the way. All right, now, just real quick, in the goods and services market, these are the products that you and I buy, the computers, the food, the air travel, whatever. That's all in the goods and services market. In the factor market, this is the factors of production. And if you recall, the factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Okay? So that's what's being bought and sold in the factor market. So what we want to do is follow the money. All right? And so the easiest way, I think, is to just, let's look at you. All right, so this is going to be you. What do you do with your money? Okay? Do you buy things in the factor market? Do you buy land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship? Or do you buy goods and services? And so you as a household, we'll just use green since we're talking about money, you buy your stuff in the goods and services market. Okay? This is called consumer expenditure. All right? It's a fancy way of just saying the money that you use to buy the stuff that you get. All right? Now, in return, what do the firms give you? They give you goods and services. All right? And so we'll have this one coming back. These are goods and services. Now, the two quick things to note, remember we had Y, E, and O from the other page. The Y stood for, if anybody remembers, is income, the E for expenditure, and the O for output. These are different ways to measure the economy, and so what you can see here now is that if we look at, let me get a highlighter that I want. If we look at this flow, this is the consumer expenditure. If we take the value of that flow, that gives us the expenditure approach for measuring the economy. Okay? If we look at the value of the goods and services coming back, that gives us the output of the flow. And so all this is saying is, and you can see why these are generally equal, the money that we spend is equal to the value of the stuff that we get in exchange, okay? So let me get rid of those. And I'm going to get rid of that goods and services flow because, like I said, it's going to get kind of messy. But I want you to know that that's why that it's there. We'll put one together a little bit later. So we have our money flowing to the house, from the households to the firms, and now what does the firm do with it? Okay, if you're the owner of, if you're the manager of a firm, what do you do with the money that you get from selling your product? You have to go and buy all the factors of production in order to make your product. Okay, and this is the income. So getting back to the Y, E, and O, this is the income part of it. All right, and so this is, it's not just known as income. So when you're working on examples of this, there's a more specific way economists like to talk about this, and that is, this is for the labor. The factor payment for the labor is, as you know, called a wage. The factor payment for the land is called rent. The factor payment for capital is called interest, and the factor payment for entrepreneurship, they get the profit. All right, and so one way to abbreviate that is WIRP. All right, so this is how the money flows from the firms to the households. All right, it flows through the factor market, and in exchange, and I'm going to put this in here, I'm going to erase it shortly, I just want you to see it. In exchange, what do the firms get? The firms get the factors of production. All right, so they send income through the factor market, and the households, because the households, this is us, we own all of this stuff. Okay, we own the firms, and that's why the profits come to us. We own the capital, we own the labor, and we own the land, and the firm is buying it from the households. All right, so now that's the simple two-sector model. All right, that's pretty straightforward. You have the flow of income going this way. The inner flow, like this, is what you get for it. All right, but now what we want to look at is, this is a pretty simple model, and nothing's that simple. All right, and so we want to get to our 3 and 4 and 5 sector model. So imagine that you are an individual and you get, let's say, $1,000 a month. Okay, let's say that's your income. We're just going to pretend that this is just you. We're not going to get all into this, but you have $1,000 worth of income, and so let's say that here's your $1,000. Do you spend all of your $1,000 in this goods and services market? So the answer is obviously no. Okay, so the question is, what do you do with it? What are the different things besides just buying products, goods and services, that you do with your money? And what would prevent it from getting into this? And so what this is called in economics is a leakage. All right, because the leakage means that it's not going straight into the goods and services market, it's going somewhere else. So let's come over here and write these out. These are leakages. Leakages of money, leakages of income. All right, and so the first leakage, so we're going to kind of toggle back and forth here. The first one, what might you decide to, well, what do you have to do with some of your money? And one thing you have to do, or you go to jail, is you have to pay your taxes. All right, and so some of the money gets taken out of the circular flow of income, and that's to be paid off in taxes. Now, who do you have to pay that to? And as we all know, that is the government. And then the question is, so this is our sector, and then the question is, what does the government do with the money? And they will inject it back into the economy. And how do they do that? For the government, they do it in terms of government spending. All right. And so if we go back over here, let's put the government in here. All right. It's the government. So some of the money, let's get back to green, some of the money goes to the government in taxes. And the government buys goods and services basically from the firms. That's government spending. They'll buy healthcare, they'll buy military stuff, they'll buy roads and bridges and police and all that stuff. And so we'll just make it, to keep it simple, the firms do that. And so this is one of the leakages. One of the leakages is taxes. And it turns into government spending, which is called an injection. All right, now besides taxes, what else might you do with your money? Let's use another color here. Instead of taxes, you may decide to save some of it. All right, and where do you send the savings? Okay, banks, or we'll call them financial institutions. And so what do those financial institutions do with that money? Okay, they lend it, and they'll lend it out to, say, businesses to make investments. All right, so now let's go back. And by the way, this is an L. Let me call this J. So let's go back, and we'll put financial institutions here, because some of our money is going to go this way. So let's, oops, what to do that is green. So here's the households. They give money to the financial institutions in the form of savings, and that will turn around, and the businesses can borrow the money and make capital investments. Okay, so this is for investments in capital. This isn't like buying stocks and stuff. And so this is, our leakage is savings, because some of us save our money. And the output is investments. Okay, and it goes through the financial institutions. Then the last one that we have, the last institution, or I'm sorry, the last leakage that we have, let's find another color. You might buy a Honda that was made in Japan. Okay, so some of your money may end up going to Japan, which gets us out of our, remember, we're measuring our domestic economy. And so if money's going out, we got to look at that. And so money that we pay for imports, all right, and this is going to go, we'll just call this foreign market. It's going to go through the foreign market. Some books might call it the world market. Some people call it imports and exports. But so some of the money goes out in imports, but some money also comes in the form of exports. When a company in the U.S. sells their product to another country, the income, the money is coming from another country into our economy. And so we have three leakages. One is taxes, which go to the government. The government uses that money for government spending. We have savings, which go to financial institutions, which lend it out to businesses to make investments, capital investments. And we have imports. Money goes out to other countries, and then other countries also buy stuff from us, and so that's the export. And so let's go over here and put our, the foreign market here. Just say foreign exchange, something like that. And then we've got the money coming in. This is imports, and this is exports. Okay? And so as you can see, now let's kind of color this big. As you can see, this side, these three things are all the leakages. All right? And these things are all of the injections. All right, now the question is, what if we have our $1,000, what if we spent 600 in consumer expenditure? All right, 600 bucks on goods and services. What's going to happen? The $400 extra has to go to one of these three things. So let's say you pay 200 in taxes, You have 150 in savings, and 50 of it goes to imports. And so the question is, does the 200 coming into the government have to equal the 200 in government spending? It doesn't, but you will find that when you add these up, so if we sum up the leakages, it's going to have to equal. So let's say that this is 375 and 25. Okay, the numbers have to equal. Okay, because we started out with 1,000, and so $1,000 income. So the sum of the leakages has to equal the sum of the injections. All right, so we got 600 coming off here, then we had 400 peeling off into the leakages through either the government sector, the financial institutions, or the foreign exchange, or the global market, and that money comes back through to the firms, and so that would give us our total consumption, our total expenditure. All right. Now, what I want you to see here is here's the households with $1,000. There are no leakages coming from the firms. All right. And so when we look at the firm, the firm's flow is pretty strong. Okay, it's $1,000 of income, and then when we get to the household, it will split up. Most of it will go to consumption, some will go to taxes and savings, and then imports. And so if we go back over to this other page, we can just wrap this up. If we add these together, all right, that gives us total leakages. If we add these together, sorry, got distracted. If we add these together, that gives us total injections. And these come through these three different sectors, so these have to be equal. All right, and so we've got the two-sector model, which we did in the very beginning, which showed, sorry about that, two-sector model was just the households and the firms. And then we had the 3 and 4 and 5 sector models. The 3-sector model looks at the government, the 4 sectors, the financial institutions, and then 5 sectors brings in the foreign exchange. So that is the circular flow of income, and that'll be it for today. Until next time.